and Hollywood good looks. It's frightening to imagine that this is the same man today.
Perfect fit.
When someone's weight drops to 20% or more below what's considered healthy for their frame, they're not just thin, they're dangerously underweight. And that's a red flag that goes way beyond appearance. Join us as we take a look at 20 of the thinnest people in the world. Number 20. Tom Staniford. Among the world's population, only 7 individuals are known to carry an extraordinarily rare condition that stops the body from storing fat beneath the skin. And one of them is Tom Staniford, a top-tier British paracyclist. As a toddler, Tom never wanted anyone to try to lift him, a reaction his parents never fully understood. By age 12, he began noticing dramatic changes. Fat disappeared from his face, limbs, and even the soles of his feet, while his hearing steadily declined.
I don't process fat in the normal way.
His parents grew increasingly alarmed, looking for answers that remained elusive. In a cruel irony, Tom also developed type 2 diabetes, a disease usually associated with excess fat. Apparently, the very inability to process fat properly has made his cells resistant to insulin, the hormone that regulates blood sugar. Like others with the condition, he must carefully monitor his diet and take medication to keep his glucose levels in check. Standing at 6'3" and weighing just 64 kilograms, Tom admits that his strange features often make him look far older than he truly is. Without the natural protection of subcutaneous fat, his joints grow stiff with little provocation, and even a minor fall from his bike could result in a fracture. So every day, Tom has to live in fear of every contact, because he never knows what could happen next. Number 19. Lizzie Velasquez. Born 4 weeks premature in 1989, Lizzie Velasquez entered the world with a condition so exceedingly rare that it remains unnamed and is believed to affect only 2 other people on the planet. Yet, despite being told time and again that she was the ugliest woman alive, Lizzie refused to be defined by cruelty. Today, she commands stages across the globe as a highly sought-after motivational speaker, inspiring audiences far and wide. When she was 17, she agreed to a local television interview, and by the time she stumbled upon the footage online, it had already racked up over 4 million views. Still, it was met with an avalanche of vicious comments. Though she had endured bullying for most of her life, this time the weight of it landed differently. She was devastated, but her parents offered a lifeline. "Let yourself have one good cry," they told her, "and then get back on your feet." That moment became a turning point. From then on, Lizzie channeled her pain into purpose, dedicating her life to combating cyberbullying and challenging harmful beauty standards. Today, Lizzie is internationally sought after. Number 18. Valeria Levon. Known in the media as the world's thinnest woman, an anorexia survivor has openly expressed her surprise at becoming an unexpected icon for teenage girls who admire her super-thin frame. Rather than embrace that attention, she is determined to use her story as a cautionary tale, hoping to spare others from suffering the same fate as she did. Anorexia has left her isolated and physically ravaged. In an effort to raise awareness of the dangers of the disorder, she has released really shocking images of her condition, believing that such raw honesty may deter others from following a similar path. At the same time, she points a finger at the fashion industry, where many designers insist their creations look best on ultra-thin frames, so much so that runway samples and photo shoot pieces are often sized exclusively for women who fit a narrow, petite mold. She argues that the industry standard should shift toward models who appear healthy and athletic, neither overweight nor dangerously underweight, as is so often the case today. Number 17. Kathy Young. Some people spend years trying to become thinner. Kathy Young spent decades trying to make one specific part of her body smaller, and eventually made her waist so narrow that it became a Guinness World Record. Standing 5 feet 8 inches tall, Kathy's corseted waist measures just 15 inches. To put that into perspective, her waist is narrower than the diameter of many ordinary household jars. Without the corset, however, her waist measures about 21 inches. But Kathy wasn't born with this extraordinary figure. Her fascination began with something far less extreme: Victorian clothing. She had always been interested in the era's fashion and eventually realized that the dramatic hourglass silhouette of Victorian dresses looked very different without the corset underneath. So she started wearing one. At first, her waist was around 26 inches. Then, little by little, she began using tighter training garments to reduce it. Kathy gradually narrowed her waist over many years, eventually reaching the measurement that would make her famous. And she didn't just wear the corset for a few hours while dressed up. Kathy eventually began wearing one for 23 hours a day, taking it off only to shower. She even slept in it. By 1999, at the age of 62, she had officially been recognized by Guinness World Records for having the smallest tight-laced waist on a living person. According to Kathy, the corseting did not prevent her from doing ordinary things. She told Guinness that she could still drive, fish, clean her house, and go about her daily life. Her husband, Bob, was also an orthopedic surgeon and monitored her health as her waist changed. Number 16. Christian Bale. Oscar-winning actor Christian Bale is by far one of the most remarkably versatile performers of his generation. Renowned not only for the many characters that he has played, but also for his unwavering dedication to the craft of cinema. Bale has repeatedly transformed himself physically in service of his roles, going extreme if needed. His most shocking transformation was in The Machinist, where he played a man plagued by delusions, crippling anxiety, and relentless paranoia, symptoms of a year without sleep. Bale subjected himself to an extreme diet and regimen, shedding roughly 65 pounds until he weighed just 130 pounds. Definitely not every actor goes this extreme. Number 15. Jeremy Gillitzer. You might not know Jeremy Gillitzer by name, but if you don't, you're seriously missing out on one interesting guy. He used to be a model, but for years he battled anorexia. By the time he passed away, he was barely recognizable, down to just 68 pounds. Now, Jeremy's case was extreme, no question. But the truth is, eating disorders are hitting more and more guys these days. Harvard researchers put out the results from the first major national mental health survey that actually looked at eating disorders across the board. What they found was pretty eye-opening. Men made up 25% of all anorexia and bulimia cases and a full 40% of binge eaters. Number 14. Iana Spangenberg. Most people would probably look at this model's crazy tiny waist and just assume it was photoshopped if there wasn't actual video proof floating around. But there is. Footage of 30-year-old Romanian model Iana Spangenberg showing off her mind-blowing 20-inch waist in a tight, sparkly silver dress has gone viral online. What's wild is she says she eats 3 full meals a day and doesn't rely on crazy diets to keep her midsection that slim, something most women only get by wearing a corset. Number 13. Karen Carpenter. As the lead singer and drummer of the Carpenters, Karen Carpenter had become one of the defining voices of 1970s pop. Songs like Close to You and We've Only Just Begun had made her a superstar. But behind that seemingly perfect image, her relationship with her body was becoming increasingly dangerous. Karen had started dieting years earlier. After being criticized about her weight as a teenager, she initially lost weight and was praised for looking slimmer. But by the early 1970s, what began as dieting had become an obsession. In 1975, while the Carpenters were touring, Karen's weight had fallen to around 91 pounds at 5 feet, 4 inches tall. Audiences who had come to see one of the biggest pop acts in the world were reportedly shocked when she walked onto the stage looking dramatically thinner. Some fans even wrote to the group asking what had happened to her. The situation became so serious that the Carpenters had to postpone major tours, and Karen spent time in the hospital recovering. For years, Karen's weight repeatedly rose and fell as she struggled with anorexia nervosa. At one point, her weight reportedly dropped as low as 77 pounds. Even as her body deteriorated, she continued to perform and remained intensely focused on music. By the early 1980s, Karen was desperately trying to recover. In 1982, she underwent intensive treatment in New York and gained around 30 pounds in a relatively short period. But years of severe illness had already placed enormous strain on her body. Then, on February 4th, 1983, everything came to an end. Karen collapsed at her parents' home in Downey, California. She was only 32 years old. Number 12. Abby Solomon. When Abby Solomon decided to leave college behind, she picked up a pretty typical pastime for Austin folks in their early 20s, diving into the local music scene. But she wasn't some aimless slacker wrestling with big existential questions. She was honestly just looking for a break after a whole string of surgeries tied to her rare genetic condition. Her disorder comes from a mutation in the FBN1 gene, and it messes with the soft fat layer under her skin, which has caused some serious deformity around her eyes and nose. A while back, the pain and all the complications got so bad, she had to drop out of the University of Texas after only 2 years. Most of 2015 and 2016 were eaten up by surgeries and the long recoveries that followed. Even now, she's still dealing with eye pain and back issues from the same condition, but she says things are actually looking up. Her daily routine is a mix of doctor visits, digging into indie label releases, endlessly scrolling through local concert listings, and helping out her parents, all while keeping her fingers crossed that she'll land a job soon. Number 11. 50 Cent. For years, 50 Cent was known for one thing almost as much as his music: his intimidating physique. Then, for one movie role, he transformed himself so dramatically that fans barely recognized him. In 2010, Curtis Jackson took on the role of a cancer-stricken football player in Things Fall Apart. To make the character look genuinely ill, he embarked on an extreme weight loss transformation. The rapper reportedly dropped from around 214 pounds to 160 pounds, losing approximately 54 pounds in just 9 weeks. The muscular rapper, who had once appeared in music videos with a powerful athletic build, suddenly looked gaunt, fragile, and almost unrecognizable. His face became noticeably thinner, his muscles disappeared, and his entire appearance changed. He reportedly survived on a liquid diet and spent hours walking on a treadmill as he rapidly shed the weight. The transformation became so dramatic that photographs of him circulated widely, with many people initially wondering what had happened to the rapper. Number 10. Isabelle Carrot. French model and actress Isabelle Carrot, who hailed from Marseille, first grabbed the spotlight when she starred in the edgy No Anorexia ad campaign, the one with the Oliviero Toscani photo showing her spine and facial bones practically poking through her skin. It was controversial, to say the least. She'd been battling severe anorexia since she was just 13, and she traced it back to what she called a pretty rough childhood. At 20, she ended up in the hospital for the first time after slipping into a coma, and the doctors actually told her she wouldn't make it. But she did. Sadly, she passed away on November 17, 2010, in France, after spending 2 weeks in the hospital with a serious respiratory infection. Number 9. Michael Fassbender. In Steve McQueen's Hunger, Michael Fassbender portrayed Bobby Sands, an Irish Republican prisoner who went on a hunger strike in 1981. To make the transformation believable, Fassbender underwent a drastic weight loss regimen and reportedly dropped around 40 pounds during preparation for the role. The result was startling. The muscular actor audiences were accustomed to seeing gradually disappeared. His face became hollow, and his ribs became increasingly visible. Fassbender reportedly survived on a highly restricted diet consisting of small amounts of sardines, berries, and nuts, while also limiting his physical activity to help reduce his weight. Fassbender eventually regained his weight, but the images from Hunger remain some of the most unsettling examples of an actor physically transforming himself for a role. Number 8. Rachel Farrock. A desperate public plea from an anorexic woman has really struck a chord with people on social media. 37-year-old Rachel Farrock has been fighting this condition for a full decade, and now she weighs just 40 pounds and needs specialized care just to stay alive. The Southern California actress turned to YouTube to try to raise money for the treatment she so desperately needs. She described her illness as a psychological disorder that ended up causing all kinds of physical pain and heartache. In her emotional video, she opened up about how she's been searching for help for over 10 years, but at this point, no hospital will even take her in. The silver lining? In just 24 days, she's pulled in nearly $175,000 from over 6,770 donors. So now she's got enough to start therapy, beginning at home until she's stable enough to travel. Number 7. Ruth Luan. One woman got so into tight-laced corsets that her waist ended up barely bigger than a soda can. Corsets have been around since the 16th century, originally intended to support a woman's torso and create a smooth silhouette. But over time, the whole tight-lacing thing produced some pretty extreme results, like Ruth Luan's waist, which measured just 11.8 inches. This Mexican ballet dancer, stunt performer, and underwater mermaid pretty much dedicated her life to tight lacing, and it completely transformed her figure. She's 24 now and started 5 years ago after being diagnosed with hyperlaxity syndrome, a rare disorder that affects muscles and ligaments. Her doctor actually suggested she wear a corset to help with the pain. But instead of letting her condition hold her back, she used tight lacing not only to ease her discomfort, but also to reshape her waist. Number 6. Lena Marie Fawn. At just 10 years old, Lena Marie Fawn stopped eating, and it continued for the next 2 decades. She struggled with anorexia, a condition so severe it actually kept her from ever hitting puberty. So she lived out her life in a child's body right up until her death in October 2019. Over the years, her talent and sheer determination seemed like the only things that could beat this illness. But once anorexia takes hold, it's incredibly hard to shake. Her experience living with the disorder while using photography as a creative outlet is full of contradictions. The urge to create was constantly at war with the urge to self-destruct. The impulse to physically shrink away from the world seemed to directly clash with her desire to bear herself emotionally and physically through her art. It was really hard to tell who was really in charge. Lena Marie, or the disease she described as a prison where the illness called all the shots? Some of her own words are pretty striking. She once said that no matter how bad her health got, she always wanted to live. But then she also darkly referred to her disorder as a slow suicide. Number 5. Christina Kogina. A doctor actually told an anorexic woman who weighs about the same as a typical 4-year-old that she could easily land a role in a horror movie just based on her appearance. Christina Kogina from Russia tips the scales at only 17 kilograms after not eating properly throughout her high school years. Now at 26, her doctor has warned her that her severely malnourished state might literally get her cast as a living corpse. He's been treating her for free ever since reality TV actress Maria Coco rallied her 520,000 Instagram followers to launch a campaign on Christina's behalf. Miss Coco, who starred on Dom 2, actually went through anorexia herself before, so she knows firsthand what it's like to be handed a meal and just not be able to eat it, even when you know deep down you're dying. As for Christina, she stopped eating normally back in high school, surviving on tiny portions of bananas and apples. She did manage to graduate from law school eventually, but her condition kept getting worse until she couldn't even leave her apartment. Her doctor thinks that if she can find a way to laugh at her disease, that might just be the first step toward actually recovering. Number 4. Eugenia Cooney. YouTuber Eugenia Cooney stirred up a whole lot of outrage after posting a video that put her super slender frame front and center. Fans were so worried they started begging her to get help and even tried to block her. Eugenia, who's 29, has a massive presence across social media with 1.6 million TikTok followers, 2.1 million YouTube subscribers, 67,000 on Instagram, and another 437,000 over on Twitch. She's been a pretty controversial figure ever since she started posting beauty content back in 2013. Her latest Barbie-themed video has brought all those old worries back to the surface, with a bunch of people even talking about starting a petition to get her banned. While some folks do tune in for her makeup tips, a whole lot more have been seriously concerned about her dangerously thin appearance for years now. And that concern has blown up again after she dropped this latest clip. The comment section of her Barbie video, which has racked up over 16 million views, was flooded with people urging her to seek treatment. Many of them described the situation as both sad and genuinely scary. Back in 2019, Cooney appeared in a documentary on Shane Dawson's channel after taking some time off to focus on her health. In that video, she did admit she had an eating disorder and said she was going to therapy. Number 3. Anna Carolina Reston. 21-year-old Anna Carolina Reston's death really added fuel to the fire when it comes to all the criticism around using underweight models in fashion. And this issue was already pretty urgent after Uruguayan model Luisel Ramos died of heart failure right in the middle of a fashion show in Montevideo. Reston passed away from a widespread infection brought on by anorexia, which is basically an eating disorder where people severely restrict what they eat to stay ultra-thin. She weighed barely 88 pounds and was around 5 feet 8 inches tall. To put that in perspective, doctors consider that weight normal for a 12-year-old girl who's only about 5 feet tall. Brazil has produced many top models, and hundreds of young girls from all backgrounds dream of following in the footsteps of big names like Gisele Bündchen and Adriana Lima. Reston wasn't exactly a household name, but she had done some international work, especially in Japan and for Giorgio Armani, and she was signed with the Brazilian agency LP. Neither the agency nor Armani had anything to say after her death. Number 2. Maria and Katie Campbell. Identical twin sisters Maria and Katie Campbell have opened up about how a casual comment from their dad when they were just 11 years old ended up sending them both down the road to anorexia. Today, both of them weigh less than 84 pounds. It all started when they were standing at the top of the stairs, and their father casually mentioned they were starting to get hips. That remark really stung, and they got so upset that they basically decided if they stopped eating, they'd lose those hips. The twins, who grew up in Wandsworth, are well aware they might never fully recover from this disease, but they're still giving it another shot, checking into a treatment facility for several more months to try and beat it. Number 1. Natalia Hula. Natalia Hula pretty much stopped eating after she went through a breakup with the guy she loved, and her body definitely showed the effects. You could see her pelvic bones sticking out, and her back got so narrow that her ribs started protruding even more. But here's the thing, unlike a lot of the anorexics we've come across, Natalia isn't exactly seen as strange or alarming by everyone. In fact, quite a few people have actually described her body as sexy and aesthetically pleasing. She weighs just over 25 kilograms. Thanks for watching. Now check out the videos popping up on screen for more unbelievable stories.